Hey, I'm Grant and welcome to the State of the Channel for August 28th. So, update on this week. Basically what I've been working on is just the website. I wanted to go and add some more features in that I desperately needed. And I essentially got to the point where I was having fundamental flaws with how it was set up. So I ended up just completely starting everything over and just completely reworking it. It's all this same code base. It's just that it needed to kind of be put together correctly. So I've been doing a lot of that, which involves a lot of just copying and pasting data into the website. Because essentially I have a post for every single video that I want to be seen on the site. And I just have to go through and be like, okay, here's a title, description, thumbnail, any kind of meta tags I want to have on the site. I'd have to do that for every single video. I think Dead Rising, the Master Run series alone had 35 episodes for Dead Rising 1, 31 episodes for 2, and then Chop to Drop had 17. So it's pretty substantial, and not to mention actually just making sure I add all that stuff in and build it correctly. So I've been working on that, and right now the site's down, and it'll probably be for the next couple days just because I want to make sure I have everything back and put together before I let it go live again. And it's going to take a little while. I wish I had more time to actually sit down and work on just specifically that. But I hopefully now should be able to tie into some new features. A big one is Google Analytics, which are something I already have on my YouTube channel. This is just something where you can see based off Google, where's traffic coming from, who is looking at stuff, do you have different demographics, what's doing well, what's not doing so well. I can hopefully start running ads, which is just something to basically help pay for the site itself. I don't expect the ads to ever be a giant source of income, but as it stands, right now, I think the site costs, I want to say $5 to $6 a month to run. And I might be adding on a little bit more if I want to do the podcast hosting service and not do everything myself, which $10 a month isn't terrible, especially as the site hopefully continues to kind of grow and become this hub for all my stuff. But it would be nice to say oh, it's $10 that I spend every month, but it generates $2. That's something that will be actually pretty substantial over the long run, is getting that in at the beginning and making sure the ads are proper. So that's one reason why I wanted to make sure that I got those working correctly very early on in the site, just because it's very important that I do that. Otherwise, I'm just gonna turn this into a giant money sink. But otherwise, I have the first official podcast episode should be officially completely edited. So what that means is I took my first pass, completely did all the video. Now the catch here is I'm also gonna have an audio version, and I wanna go through that at least once and try and improve the audio a little bit, because there's some filters I can put on, I can compress, I know I can cancel out some of the noise, stuff like that. I still have to get a feel for what I wanna do with the audio podcast. The biggest debate I have is whether or not I should silence. Because one of the things that comes up is there'll be pauses between conversations and there's background noise. And in a way, I can take that out if people aren't talking. I can just literally essentially delete that part of the file. And in a way that sounds better because there's no static. But at the same time, to remove that certain level of background noise very suddenly, it's almost more noticeable. So I don't know yet if I have a good feel for that. Or I just have this question I have to answer on how much do I want to edit the audio podcast? Because the audio is a lot easier to edit just because I don't have to have it linked up to the video. There are certain things you'll see in the first episode when it comes out that I had to leave in or go to a certain camera angle because I want to show something happening. Whereas if it was just the audio podcast, I would probably cut it out. But as of today, I want them to have one-to-one parity, generally speaking. Also, that gives me the benefit of not having to listen to it another 2-3 times. Because honestly, I do have this issue where just last night I listened to it again and I caught 1 or 2 little video glitches that I could go fix. And that's nice. I wish I could sit down and just watch it over and over and catch all those little hiccups. But realistically, I think this one is an hour and 10 minutes long. So just having sat through it 5 times now, that's 5 hours, almost 6. So even though I might want to eventually have an audio version that is very cleaned and very well edited and just I go in and make it as best as possible, I think realistically the audio version is going to be just a rip of the video, and then I'll just do a very quick pass with some filters to try and make it sound a little bit better. Just because I don't think it's that big of a deal if the audio version's not as great, because my stance, I guess, is if you want to see the best version, go actually watch the video. That would be the easiest. But again, that's something where I just want to see people's opinions. I know personally, like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I can go back, like, I'll bounce back and forth about like what I want. Like, sometimes I just want the content, don't care how good the audio quality is. And then other times it's like, oh, what's with this background noise? What's with like these like random like hiccups they could have cut out? Like, so I don't know, really let me know what you think if you listen to it. But I'm hoping, again, that should start coming out. Tentatively, I'd love to have it out by the next Sunday when I release this video, or next Monday. Just because what I need to do is I need the website to be fully functional. I need to stand up that hosting service. I need to submit to iTunes, get it all approved. And honestly, I'd like to at least film the second one before we release this one. Just because, again, I don't want it to be a situation where, hey, I finished this first episode, it's awesome, put it out. Next one's coming in a month. On that same note of me figuring stuff out is I think I'm gonna make the podcast be every 2 weeks, just because I think I can do every week, but that definitely has, one, it's a lot of pressure to be able to cram everything in at once. And then you end up basically just like skipping weeks anyway, because it's like, oh, I just can't meet anyone this week, or we don't have time for everyone to like meet up and like do the little photo shoot. So I think what I'll do is probably starting with a second episode, we'll move to bi-monthly. So like every 2 weeks we'll go and we'll put one out, and essentially the weeks in between would be time for me to work on other content. So that's the plan. Got to stand up, improve the site a little bit more. It still needs a ton of cleanup before it's kind of what I really want it to be. I need to get all the data back in there, as well as adding just a couple more features. I want to put up the audio podcast, put up the video podcast, and actually get my hosting service working and submit it to iTunes and everything. I'm looking so forward to it, because it's going to be actually it's a pretty big deal to me to be able to like pull up my own like phone podcast app and see my podcast. That's something I'm really looking forward to, and I can't wait to see it happen. So as always, you can get a hold of me over on Twitter. It's @taken4grantd. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week.